Alright, welcome guys to episode 4 of Origin Story, and I'm here with Liesel today, and I'll let her quickly introduce herself.
My name's Liesel Albrecht. I run a company called the Retreat Specialists, and our plan is to run retreats all over the world for all different sorts of people. I'm a Melbourne girl, born and bred here, now live in the country, so got a bit of that, sea change happening, which is interesting in itself, but really, love watching people experience new things, travel, and just love life.
Cool, perfect, all right. Well, we obviously know each other pretty well.
We do.
But I think it would be really good to hear your story in full, because I've heard so many pieces of it, so it'd be nice to hear the full thing.
Yeah.
But why don't we start with before the retreats? Before that, where was it? What was life like prior to getting into business?
My background's social work.
Yep.
So I was working with an NGO, but with families that were involved in child protection. So lots of time kids had been removed, we were, reunifying them back home, and also did a lot of work with teenagers. So really, the toughest, biggest, traumatising story you could imagine, think 10 times worse. So, you think you've heard every story and then you hear just another one that takes your breath away. So my background was social work, I was married, 2 boys, and then my marriage broke up because of drug and alcohol abuse from his side. Mm-hmm. And so then I kind of went on a bit of a journey, realised that my time in social work was probably ending. I'd been doing it 26 years. Yeah. And I was, like looking back now, I was just so emotionally exhausted. And so I saw Eat, Pray, Love with Elizabeth Gilbert. Yeah. And watching that movie, I thought, I'm going to take off on the day I turned 40 and take the boys to Asia for 3 months, which I did. And that was really the beginning of quite a transformational journey where I realised that I couldn't do social work anymore, that it was just, the effects of other people's trauma on me was too great. Yeah. And so I then had kind of 4 aha moments, I guess. Okay. One was up in Sapa in the north of Vietnam, so right up near the Chinese border, and I was staying in this, I think it was like a hotel that belonged to the Russian mafia. That's what it felt like. There was all these Russian men in like suits and cigars, and it was quite a bit like a movie set. Yeah. And I was in the room. So my boys were like 12 and 6 at that point, boys. They were having an all-out brawl about, I don't know, whether to fast forward a movie or something. And I ended up in the bathroom just sobbing. And so it was like all this stuff from the marriage. After our marriage broke up, my ex-husband had a really bad work accident, lost an arm. So it was all this stuff just came out. Yeah. And the next day we went to one of the hill tribes, and we were coming down the valley, and there was this huge valley, rice fields, everything in front of us, and there was this rainbow. And I made the guys on the scooters stop and take photos, and they were probably thinking, bloody tourists, but it was one of those scenes that took your breath away. Yeah. And I went, that's just so beautiful. And then there were a few other things. So we went to Turkey, and I'd always wanted to go to Istanbul and the Grand Bazaar and those places. And I was on a cruise, and we stopped and we opened the curtains, and what fascinated me was there was Europe and there was Asia, and you could hear the call to prayer and all that sort of thing. So that was kind of my second aha moment. Okay, cool. Then the next one was I took some friends of mine to Venice. Yeah. And I'd said to them, there's only one time you can walk out of the train station and see the Grand Canal for the first time. And if any of you have been to Venice and know that scene that's there, and we walked out, and even my youngest, who was about 10 at the time, was just so overwhelmed. And one of the girls got quite teary, and I went, that's what I want to do. I want to show people something for the first time that they'll never forget. Yeah. And then I went to the Trevi Fountain, which again was one of those journeys that my grandmother and I had wanted to do together, because she was the one that inspired me to travel. So and left the only career I ever
Yeah.
knew and jumped into retreats full time.
Crazy. So before we get into the retreat, so tell me, I mean, obviously it sounds like it was necessary to make that jump.
Yeah.
But how did you feel? I mean, there must have been, I mean, you're 40, 2 kids,
Yeah.
recently on your own.
Yeah.
What fears did you have making that leap?
That I'd be at the Salvos getting food parcels
Yeah.
a lot. That,
Yeah.
I was lucky by that point. I found that when I rediscovered who I was, then I met a good man who now we're married, and without his support financially, it would have been really, really difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't have been brave enough
Yeah.
just because I had 2 kids to support. But making that decision, like I was at the point in my work where I would cry every day going to work. It was just like, bogged down in the politics of working somewhere, plus the bitching, you got an office of women with very few men, and just really, it was such a load taken off my mind because I made the decision and then I was there 12 more months.
Okay.
Well, I started to build the business, but I had that end goal in sight that, on November, we've just passed the anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
So I went, no, that's the date that I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
And no, we're not quite November, are we? We're September. Clearly I've got a lot going on. But making that decision, then it was like, okay, everything I do from now is towards that goal.
Yeah, okay. And so obviously retreats was a way of showing people something they've never experienced before. How did you get into that world? Where did that come from?
I've always, since I was about 16, I've been involved in Girl Guides, I was in youth groups, and I was always the one organising the social stuff, but as well as like weekend camps. I remember wanting to get in when I was the Ranger Guide, so that was like the teenage years. We had this big state event that our leader was the state commissioner, so the state head of the state, and we were organising this event. And at the dinner on the Saturday night, she thanked us all but singled me out. And I thought, I actually haven't done very much, but clearly I was in there having my say and probably delegating stuff, so it looked like I was busy. And so I've always run stuff and I love it.
Yeah.
And so when I moved, so I grew up in Melbourne, moved out into the country to East Gippsland, and realised there was nothing for young adults to do unless they played sport. Yeah. So I just started running these leadership weekends. And it's really developed from then. Then was running them in Bali, always on my work holidays. Yeah. And it was just such a natural progression to go, you know what, I want to do that full time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And so when you first started out, did you have any mentors that helped bring you along for that, or that helped overcome anything in that initial?
I had women that I looked up to that I'd known as very professional women. So I had some discussions with them, and they were women that I'd known a lot of years. My aunt, she was corporate. My family were working class and she'd moved into the corporate realm. She was like one of the women in the 70s in Victoria that broke through that glass ceiling. So for me, I'd always had this role model. To me, she was just Auntie Jill. Yeah. But once I started thinking about that, like, she did phenomenal things. Yeah. So, thinking about her life and the things she had to do to succeed. Yeah. She was, I still find her totally inspirational. Yeah.
Was there any key lessons that you took away from her in that initial period, or at least the first few years?
That you can do it. Yeah. She was working in a very male-based company, dealing with farmers and big farming stations and things. And so she would go out with her secretary, who was a guy, and they would start addressing him, and she'd be like, no, hang on.
Okay.
So it was really that you can do it,
and
that it doesn't matter what those barriers are, that, you just keep persevering and showing people who you are, then you can really step into what you're here to do.
Yeah, cool. And so I guess then that leads on to, was there any challenges in that initial period that you persevered through and really pushed through to succeed?
Finding who my tribe were. Because I, like a lot of people, I was in a work environment, same people every day, and we shared lots, issues with kids, relationships breaking up, happy things as well. And so leaving that, suddenly I was at home behind a desk with a computer, and not knowing anybody in these entrepreneurial social media groups. It was really probably, I think the first probably 12 to 18 months was really a period of grief as well, leaving the only career I'd ever known, leaving these people I considered really good friends. It was kind of a bit like that out of mind, out of sight, out of sight, out of mind thing. That, suddenly I was there all alone in that sense for, 10 hours a day.
So on that, first of all, what was your day like? What did you do in those first few months when you first left entirely? You're full in retreats. What was your days like?
I fumbled it. And I look back now and I was really just winging it. Emma Isaacs from Business Chicks writes about how, you're winging it a lot of the time. And I was. I had no idea about business strategy or marketing plans, or I was just putting retreats out there. And then I thought one day there was a really good offer for a coaching session. So 2 coaching sessions with a coach, and I thought, you know what, I probably need that. She had on like special like $200. Now she's like $1,000 an hour. And so I had a session with her, and then we both happened to be in Bali at the same time. So we had a second session over there, and she said, why are you not training and coaching people on this? Like you've been running retreats for a long time. Why aren't you helping others? It's the end thing. And I went, So I came home, I wrote a manual, I ran my first training about 4 months later.
Cool.
And I love it. I love watching other people. I do work predominantly with women. But and men too, but watching people stepping into that journey of what they're here to do, that's what lights me up. This has happened because I've played a part in this. And look at those ripple effects of, they're running a retreat, there's 20 people at the retreat, and then those ripple effects to these people's families, friends, work lives, all those sorts of things. That's what I love.
Amazing. And so that first 18 months or so, you're on your own, and I think a little bit of loneliness there.
Tough.
What was that like?
Really tough. Isolating. I'd never experienced it before. Like, I'm an introvert, extrovert. So I need my downtime, but it was day after day, and it was, every now and then you'd get a client and you'd have a call and it'd be so exciting, but you didn't see people in real life. And so then I realised that those benefits of finding people in real life, networking events, even if it's a once a month catch up for lunch with a group of people, like how beneficial that is, because otherwise you can, and I hear it all the time, you can be in that dark little cave, and I think that's where a lot of people go back to work because they're not making a ton of money, they're by themselves at home, their families might be around at night or not. And it's really isolating.
I found that already in my own company, that it's something that you've got to go and have lunch. You've got to go, don't just eat lunch on your own. Go out, eat it with someone else every day as often as possible. You'll go insane.
Exactly.
Especially coming from a place where you've had, with me, I had 70, 80 staff underneath me. To having 0. So it's interesting. It
is. It's something that I found quite unexpected. And was a bit shocked by it. But like now I love it.
Yeah.
I love being able to be home, get my work done.
Yeah.
But then, you know, one of my business besties, she's in the other side of Melbourne.
Yeah.
So we don't catch up in person very often, but I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
do you want a coffee? She's like, oh gosh, yes, please.
I love
But
that.
really, you know, utilising that technology to counteract those feelings.
Yeah. And so after being in business for a bit, or even maybe at the start, did you have anyone who was like had negative effects on you?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah?
I've got people that have been in my life a long time.
Yeah.
Friends that were like, first of all, jealous that I'd taken the plunge. Not that that was ever said, but like you'd talk to them about it, say, oh, what have you been up to? And you'd say, oh, I'm doing this, doing that. And their eyes would glaze over. And I'd think, well, don't ask. Let's just not even talk about it. And really, it was never said to my face, but I know there were people in my friendship groups that were talking behind my back going, oh, what's she doing? Yeah. She's left a career, you know, she could have been, you know, a team leader or a manager, like blah, blah, blah. But then on the other hand, like I inspired people to leave their own jobs, you know, a couple women that I used to work with and that, you know, they saw what I had done and it inspired them to get up and leave where we live and discover a whole new life.
Yeah, amazing. So when you had those people, how did you deal with it? How did you cope?
Oh. My archetype, I have a friend, Shannon Bush, she does archetype profiling and she's developed her own and they're really quite, like, you know, you do like Myers-Briggs and that sort of thing and you go, oh yeah, that bit's like me, but you know, the rest isn't. I'd always felt that. And then I did this, and this sounds quite obnoxious when I say it, but she did mine and hers are based on real people. Yeah. And my archetype is the queen ruler. Luckily, I'm a good queen because there is a dark queen as well. I chop off people's heads. Yeah. So to speak. So the way I cope with it is shut them out. And if, you know, I don't need toxic people in my life, you know, and it's a bit like Kerry Armstrong, the actress, wrote a theory called 7 circles. So you got you in the middle, you got your circle of close people, and, you know, there's people in your life, but they might be out here. Yeah. So you just don't let them affect you.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd know already that, you know, there's people going, oh, what the hell are you doing? Like, you left a good job. Yeah. Really, how's this ever going to work?
Yeah, exactly.
And I look at where my life is now and what I've achieved over 5 years. Yeah. And, you know, I'm running a retreat with Elizabeth Gilbert next year. Like, that just blows my mind. Yeah, like, this woman that was part of my decision to make, you know, my life different through her story. And now she's coming to my retreat and telling everybody about it. Yeah. Like, it's awesome.
It's the best.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that because I definitely want to hear how that all unfolded. But firstly, tell me about what were some of the biggest setbacks that you had when you're going through this journey? Any big failures that you might have had to reflect back on?
Huge. Yeah. Probably not huge, but, you know, you put a retreat out there, it doesn't mean it's going to fill. Like, you go, I only need 10 people, it's only $4,000. Yeah. It's awesome. Like, I can see it's awesome. And people are saying that's really good, but then getting people to commit to paying that money. And because I wasn't coming in with, like, I wasn't a yoga teacher, I wasn't, a business coach, I wasn't any of these things. Like, people wouldn't go, oh, Liesel's running a self-development retreat, which was what my retreats were about. So what I had to do, I had to establish myself from nothing with these people I didn't know. Yeah. And so that was probably the biggest setback of not realising that to start with. So not coming in and building myself a reputation as doing, you know, these 3 things. Yeah. You know, I can help women to do this, this, this and this. Yeah. So that was probably a big setback in the sense that it really, like, there were different roadblocks I was coming up on, and I persevere. So if something doesn't work, I'll try a different way.
Yeah, cool.
That, you know, I'll just go, okay, it didn't work that way. How am I going to do it this way?
Yeah, and I mean, you probably already answered it anyway, but was there any stage along that journey that you're like, fuck, what am I doing?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever think of giving up?
Oh yeah. Probably what kept me not giving up was I'd seen other people disappear and thought, you're not very, you know, there's no perseverance there. But I did not want to go back to where I worked because I could have got a job back. My manager's messaging me saying, come back. And I could have not gone back because then people would have gone, oh, we knew it wouldn't work. Yeah. What was she thinking? And there was no way in the world that I was doing that. So, and again, incredibly supportive partner to be paying the bills in the early days. And, you know, that first consult that you get booked where people are paying, you know, now I think I was being paid like $100 an hour, which to someone that works as a social worker, that's a lot of money. And but you know, those first bookings and it really is, you know, you'll be learning this too, that it really is that know, like, trust factor. Yeah. Once that reputation, they see you giving value for money, then people pay it. Yeah. Which is fantastic.
And then, so tell me the roadblocks that you had along the way and that you're still facing now. What sort of roadblocks have you come up against?
Expansion. Okay. That's been quite a roadblock and money in the sense of getting my money mindset right. Yeah. So that then retreats that I put out there that are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, like, I'm okay with that. Yes. So then other people will be okay with that. I never knew there was such a thing as having a money mindset or money blockages. So that was probably a big thing, especially growing up in a working class family. My dad was the income owner, you know, the income bringer-innerer, and he's Austrian. So when I was 10, we went to Austria, but Mum and Dad had delivered pamphlets for maybe 3 years before that every weekend to be able to afford that. So it was just like, we just had enough money. Yeah. Okay. So for me to go, you know what, I'm okay that I'm going to earn $200,000 from an event. Yeah. You know, I'm okay that I'm going to have a lot of money in my bank account. That was a huge stumbling block for me.
It is a big thing, isn't it? But people don't really realise when you come from that environment. Yeah. Like I was the same, coming from South Auckland in New Zealand and from those neighbourhoods. Just trying to say to people that I want to be rich, I want to have money.
Yeah, it's obnoxious.
It is.
People go,
that tall poppy syndrome, isn't it? Yeah, totally. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd always thought, you know, only people in corporate have money. Yeah. You know, which that again took me a lot of, you know, changing of my mindset to go, you know what, running retreats is corporate. You know, I'm building a company and I'm building a business, so why shouldn't that money come in with ease and grace?
Josh Farr, one of our previous guests, he was saying how he used to have to practice in front of the mirror to say to people, I'm $1,500 or $3,000 a day or whatever his prices were for that particular thing, because he was like, gosh, I used to get paid $30 an hour.
I know. Yeah. Like, we've been doing some sponsorship stuff, and you know, one of our sponsorship packages is $20,000, and it took me a little bit to get my head around that because it was like, oh, that's a lot of money. People have that money, and people give it away easily. Yeah. So it's like, just the whole money stuff would have been the biggest roadblock, I would think.
Yeah, cool. And what sort of tips or what sort of ways did you overcome that?
Get a coach.
Yeah. Okay.
Get someone that knows about that stuff. Yeah. You know, sure, you can, you know, Google it. You can read books, which are fantastic. Even if it's a 90-minute session with someone that can see outside of the box. Yeah. You know, why do you only want to make enough money to pay the bills and have a little bit extra? Why don't you want $1 million?
Yeah. Okay, so was there any other challenges, any other roadblocks that you're facing in that?
Family?
Yeah.
Old-fashioned views, I guess, that women need to be at home.
Yeah.
And are you going away again? Which was really, that's been quite difficult for me.
Yeah.
In the sense of really, I know what I'm here to do, and my kids aren't toddlers anymore. I've got a great husband, you know, he's a great stepdad.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does feel like I'm away a lot.
Yeah.
But really, like, this is what I have to do to set up my business, so then that's the legacy I can hand to them. You know, I've got two sons and 2 stepdaughters now, and if nothing else, we can give them all jobs.
Yeah, great.
You know?
Yeah, fantastic.
Families.
Yeah. So let's get into your biggest success so far.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did it happen? Elizabeth Gilbert, I mean, obviously everyone knows who she is, or at least knows her story. If they don't know her personally, so tell me.
I'll give you a bit of a background to how
how
the retreat specialist has exploded into a lot more. So now I've been running retreats of my own and mentoring for probably about 20-something years.
Yep.
So I feel like I know my stuff most of the time, until, of course, you're asked that question. Yeah. You're like, holy crap, I don't know how to answer that. But I was approached by a chain resort in Thailand who said, we want to work with you. Yeah. And I went, oh, okay, I could send you some retreats. I know lots of other facilitators. I could make a little bit of cash. I could pay my mortgage every month, that sort of stuff. And then I went, hang on, this is too easy. Yeah. And I thought this could actually be a thing. Mm-hmm. So I got my beautiful PA who does like 2 hours work a week for me back then and said to her, here's an email, just send it out to a whole lot of hotels and resorts. So she did. Response was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Of really like, tell us more, what are you doing, you know, all that sort of thing. You know, along the way, things have changed with that.
Yeah.
And then I put one post up on Facebook and got 163 business owners going, we want in on this. So we've been going about 18 months. Yeah. So we're building a platform a bit like booking.com where people can go, I'm having a holiday. Yeah. I want to go to the Greek islands and I want a retreat to write a book or yoga or business or painting or a whole lot of other things that I'd never heard of before in my life. Yeah. And so they can go on, they can click their destination, click the dates, click what they want, and then there's the perfect retreats for them. Yeah. So a whole platform with facilitators that are accredited through us. Yeah, cool. So any facilitator we bring on board, we need to see proof of what they do. We need references. We need, you know, we're going to start having them do police checks and working children checks, that sort of stuff. Yeah. Because we want to be able to guarantee that we are providing people with best practice retreats. Yeah, cool. So that's very exciting. But then what happened, I was in Hawaii running a retreat last November. Yeah. And I was already talking with Plantation Island Resort and I went, I want to run a really big event. How cool would that be? So started Plantation Island, thought it was fantastic. Of course, they were 300 women, spending lots of money on cocktails and shopping. And then I was talking with a colleague and we were like, we need a celebrity. Yeah. Elizabeth Gilbert was our only choice. Yep. We couldn't even think of other people to put on the list. And, you know, I'm always a big believer that if something's meant to happen, it happens easily. We emailed her agent. There was a phone conversation and she was in.
Oh, that's cool.
Unbelievable. So easy, you know, and they've been so fantastic in negotiating. You know, I've never negotiated contracts like that. Yeah. In the ease of all that happening and changes that needed being made. So then I did an interview with her, which is about to be released, which is like, I don't think I slept much that night. It was 8 a.m. our time, and she was in New York, I think probably up around the Hamptons or something. So she was on holidays, and you know, she had a soda in her hand, like she was just this normal woman, and it was like talking to an old friend. You know, she, like at one point I said, I don't know if I can read my writing. She said something like, it's a big if. Like, so people will be like, well, clearly they know each other. But just, I'm all about women creating magic. And when women come together, and I know it's the same with guys, but I think the ripple effects of women coming together, it flows differently. Would be a word. Not better, but differently. This magic happens. And, you know, women are suddenly talking about the deepest things in their souls and laughing that laugh where they, you know, are probably wetting themselves because they've had kids. And just that soul connection of women, whether they're women caught from corporate, women that are, you know, at home looking after the kids and nurturing the family. When you bring women together and the space is held for them, it's really very magical. And that's a lot of stuff Liz talks about with her buddies like Brene Brown and Oprah Winfrey and you know, Marie Forleo. That's like my dream retreat. But we wondered, like, what would those boundaries be? You know, will she come? She's teaching on 2 days. Will she come? Will she, like, can we approach her at lunch, at dinner time, that sort of thing? And she said, I know what I'm like. When I'm not teaching, I'm learning. So I'll be at all the same workshops as all of you. And
very cool.
So I'm like, And she did a post on Facebook and Instagram, and it just went off.
Massive audience.
Massive audience. And we talked about, you know, did she expect Eat, Pray, Love to change so many lives? She said, no, I was just telling my story.
Amazing.
You know, just this is what happened to me. This is the change. And she's very open about her own struggles, which I just find beautiful. There's so many celebrities that would stuff that stuff down and hide it away.
And when you had that interview, I mean, tell me what was going through your head. I mean, that's the person who made you your whole life, started that whole process for you.
You know, it was quite surreal, but felt natural. I've always been one, like, you hear, and no women, no hate mail, but, you know, I hear women saying, oh my gosh, like having my kids was my greatest achievement. I love my kids with my life, but they're just part of the journey. And for me, interviewing her felt like just like part of the journey. And I say to Dennis, you know she'll be my new best friend. He's like, we know. But just, I think because there was nothing obnoxious about her, or I'm a celebrity author and I do Soul Sunday with Oprah Winfrey. Like, there was none of that. It was just like my normal retreat TV, interviews on the couch where we just chat. And that was what was so great about it. And I got off the thing and I went, oh, that was actually pretty good.
Amazing. What do you? I mean, this might be going too far, but what are you expecting from her on the retreat? What's your greatest hope to get from her right there?
That she will mingle with everybody, which I feel like she will. And that people get to have those conversations with her. I connected on LinkedIn with a magician. She's quite well known, and she was telling me her Elizabeth Gilbert story, and I'm like, come and do a show for us, and you know, let's make the end of your story stand out, because you know, so many women that are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, her story did change their lives. Like there was that moment, you know, I had one woman the other day, so it's two sisters and a cousin coming, and she wrote to me just in a text message, because I follow up everybody personally. She said, we've had so much trauma in our family recently that this is like, I think she said, a breath to the soul, and we worship in the house of Liz Gilbert. And I went, that's why I'm doing it. We've got 2 nurses from a small country town in New Zealand. Sorry, I don't know where, who are like, and how lucky are we to small town nurses going to an event with all these amazing women. And that's what it's all about. Those personal connections where lives will be changed. Retreats do that. And you know, I've got 30 facilitators, I've got me, we're doing panel interviews, workshops, parties, like a whole lot of stuff. And when that space is held for people to allow themselves, you know, in our interview, Liz talks about just making the decision to come and how that is so life-changing for people. Like, oh, you know what, I am going to do that. It's just amazing.
And, I mean, I've done a little weekend retreat with you earlier on in this year, and can attest to the fact that it does change lives. And I've seen the vulnerability that people showed in those moments, and I think those connections we all made that day, that weekend, I should say, are lifelong. And, you know, friendships that you'll
retreats, never lose. Exactly. And it doesn't matter if you don't see each other for 20 years, it's still the same. You know, some of my closest friends are in the States that I've connected with on a retreat. You know, there's 2 girls, particularly back in my early leadership retreats. You know, they were just out of high school. Maybe they were still even in high school. They're still friends 20-something years later. They've seen relationships come and go, had babies, got married, you know, and now they're these women that I think, you know, had they not connected, their lives may have been different. And you just do, I'm giving myself goosebumps. There's just this bond that forms, and you don't know what's happening, it just happens. And because you're allowed the space just to be you. And deal with some of that stuff that is stopping you from stepping fully into you.
Absolutely. And I think what was maybe the biggest takeaway for me was that, I mean, you know, I was the complete opposite of the average demographic.
Totally.
So, you know, I was a young male in this room with females who had all had their lives and had children, were mothers, had all these experiences, but that didn't matter.
No.
And I would never have thought to ever be friends with that many women of that, you know, of that age and bracket and demographic.
And that's the thing with retreats, it breaks down that barrier. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what your story is, that, you know, that doesn't matter, because in the end, and this is, I struggle with this on a global scale, is we're all just people. And we've all got stories, we've all got a future, you know. Why can't we just all be people? Why are these borders? Why is there this huge discrimination, which is something I've come up with quite recently with Elizabeth Gilbert posting on Facebook and Instagram more, that, you know, one woman said, look at their lineup, it's a lot of white women. You know what? She's right. It is a lot of white women, but they were picked. And there's not just white women, we have other cultures as well. But they were drawn from my pool of facilitators for the best ones for the job. And we don't have that so much over here. And, you know, maybe that's that white woman privilege stuff coming up. But I don't think of that stuff. I'm aware of it now, and we'll think about it in the future for sure. But, you know, we're so lucky to live here, I think, where it is quite different to the States predominantly. And, you know, from those discussions, you know, I will learn and grow and go, okay, how can I do things a bit differently, and how can I attract different people to my facilitator pool? But to me, everyone's just a person, you know. Doesn't matter colour of skin, sexual preference, like any of that.
And I think that for me, and what I've learned over the years, is a really, like, I mean, I'm not exactly full white, but my skin colour pretty much is. But being able to sit on that fence and have a father who's a Cook Islander and then my mother who's white, but I sort of noticed that that white privilege stopped you from being able to just see stuff that you couldn't see.
Exactly.
And I think as you start to learn that, it's about, okay, that person might not be the best, but if I just give them a leg up this one time, they will be the best next time. But they don't get that first opportunity. And that's a hard thing.
That's, what I'm building is I want to be able to give people that opportunities. And if that comes from me making a lot of money, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If I can give, particularly an organisation we support is Youth in Search. So Youth in Search, and I've been involved since I was a teen, is about, through peer support, supporting young people to make better choices in their lives and to get out of that trauma cycle that they're potentially in. So you've got kids that are coming from out-of-home care, not great family relationships, being bullied at school, a whole lot of things. And if through what I do, I can give some of those young people jobs, opportunities to travel. I'd love to take a plane load of young people to Paris or somewhere. Through what I'm doing and my experience, my life has not been easy. My childhood was great. My adult life, not so much. And I get it. I get what it's like to be scared to walk in your house because what the hell am I going to face? Or, being that mother keeping the peace because your husband's drunk and you don't want the kids to be affected. I get it. I get it what it's like to have to go get a food parcel. And if I can make a difference through what I'm doing, then that's my legacy.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And we talked, you mentioned how with Elizabeth Gilbert, did she ever expect that Eat, Pray, Love to blow up? And she just replied, I was just telling my story.
Yeah.
Tell me, that's obviously shown a massive level of vulnerability for people. But how do you think people should be applying that more in the corporate world and things? Do you think it has a place?
I think it does.
Yep.
I think people need to realise that it's okay to be vulnerable, that it's okay to say, I'm not feeling great about blah, 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 And to be able to let down some of those barriers, I think would make workplaces a lot different. Especially in that management role. I look at place I used to work and, talk the talk but walk the walk. And I think, if people are vulnerable, people feel like they're in a situation where they can talk to their superiors, to colleagues about, I'm not feeling great about this, or look at what I've done. Like, this is awesome. I think that would make a huge difference. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Throughout a lot of my career with my staff, I always was open, always told them all my stories, told them the life that I'd come through from to get to where I was. Now that I go into business on my own, I think, well, I'm telling the story to potential customers now. That's such a big different thing.
It's something I talk about a lot. So in my training, I talk to facilitators about, you may get triggered on a retreat, so you need to know your own story. And I'll have different business owners going, but I'm running a business retreat. I'm like, won't matter. You'll suddenly have a woman talking about being sexually abused as a 3-year-old. And if you don't know your own story and what your triggers are, you'll be that facilitator. And I've heard stories of this in the corner rocking because they've been triggered by something that's been said. So knowing your story, knowing how much you're going to share is really quite vital. Because then you're not taken by surprise. And I'm the same. I'm an open book. I used to go, when I was working in welfare, I would go into families, I've experienced domestic violence. I know what drug and alcohol abuse is like. I know what it's like to have traumatised kids. And they'd be like, what? Like, you're being honest with us? And first of all, I was admitting I was a parent, and struggled with those normal parent things. And I think That's where you got to know what you want to share, what you're happy to answer. Because you're going on a retreat, they're going to want to know, or they're investing a lot of money to do coaching with someone. They're going to want to know what your story is and what's your experience and how have you dealt with this stuff before. So I think it's really that, okay, this is the stuff I'm happy to tell.
Yeah.
And I think it makes us better coaches and mentors.
Yeah.
Because we're honest about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so now you've got this platform going and you've got Elizabeth Gilbert's retreat next year in February. Tell me, what's next? Do you see more bigger retreats or do you see the platform?
I think both. Okay. I feel it quite parallel.
Okay, cool.
I feel like the smaller retreats, particularly for introverts, or people wanting a particular skill set or breakthrough in their lives. But I think the effect of the bigger retreats are the retreats at resorts, that flow-on effect will be, I have this facilitator in a workshop that I've connected with because I've sat with him for 3 meals as well. And they've got 3 retreats coming up. I'm booking for all of them. Yeah. And people do that.
Yeah.
They'll book for all of them. But what are the limits?
Yeah.
I'm thinking exclusive retreats, a bit like Richard Branson, $30,000, $40,000 with the likes of, Brene or Oprah or, I've got a vision board and it's big. And I don't dream small.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, I didn't think of those details. Really? It's that much work?
Yeah. I think that's why we got along so well.
Yeah. Big vision.
Yeah.
And, my biggest learning is on this entrepreneurial journey is that anything is possible.
Yeah.
You put it out there and the universe works in very mysterious ways. And suddenly it'll be like, and in Big Magic, Liz talks about, thought comes into your head of something really big and you don't grab it and run with it. Suddenly 6 months you'll be like, what was that ad? I saw that. That was my idea. Because the idea will go to someone else. So I think an idea comes, you grab it and run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's do a little plug on this retreat because I think it's going to be huge.
Yes.
And I don't even know if you need a little plug, but tell us about it. What is it? Tell us.
So the Ultimate Girls Week Away is in February 2020, so the 15th to the 22nd.
Yep.
We've got all of Plantation Island Resort, which is just incredible. There'll be no families running around. There'll be no kids jumping in the pool, splashing water into your cocktail, any of that sort of thing. And it's 7 days of learning, being inspired, connecting with the local culture. That's a big part of my ethos is connecting on a community development level, but also bringing in, we're going to have a Fijian blessing. Yeah. We're going to bring in local dancers for the opening ceremonies. There's going to be workshops on everything from yoga to sex.
Yeah.
We've got Diane Devoney, who's from Long Island, New York, and she's coming along. She's 71.
Yeah.
Coming along to talk about the importance of self-pleasure.
Yeah.
And you imagine for Australian women, that'll be like, holy crap. But, we've got workshops, we've got discussions, we've got smaller groups. Yeah. So each day, women will be divided into a smaller group where they get to know those other 15 women. They've got a facilitator with them the whole time for about an hour. Yeah. So then there's that smaller connection. And Liz is coming to do a keynote TED-type talk on creativity and then a 4-hour Big Magic workshop, which is about connecting into that creative side of you, because a lot of people think creativity is painting or drawing. Yep. I certainly did. Yep. And it's about connecting with that creative side of you. Yep. And that can be quite transformational in itself. I believe her workshops are very good and it's a thing she loves to do. Yep. So it's really, but there is lots of downtime. We've got an excursion date where people can choose an excursion or they can just lie by the pool. Yeah. We've got a lot of night markets. We've got now a magician show. Yeah. something I hadn't thought about. And, you know, really nice things like everyone will get a beautiful welcome pack.
Yeah, cool.
You know, because we all love a present, right? Value for money. You know, there's, I think, 4 different restaurants on Plantation Island. There's lots of bars.
Yeah.
Because we know women like cocktails when they're away.
Absolutely.
We're having locals come into, we're having a market night with local people as well. And we've got a healing tent.
Yeah.
So massages, Reiki, psychics, card reading, cranial something massage, you know. We've got an amethyst biomat, which one of our facilitators, Jeannie, is bringing from Hawaii.
Yeah.
And it's just like a heated mat and it's infused with amethyst.
Okay.
Amazing. I can't describe what it feels like to lie on this mat. It's really quite, if nothing else, it's relaxing. So just a really fun week, and our mantra is, I always get this tongue-tied, is you don't have to be a good girl to be a good person. And that comes from Liz's new book, City of Girls.
Yeah, okay.
Because, you know, don't let your past define you.
Yeah.
Don't let, you know, you've made decisions to the best of your ability at the time, and don't, you know, going, oh, you know, I'm 47 and all I've been is a mum, you know, or all I've done is this, or I made these bad decisions. So what? It's the past. You know, don't let that past define you, and come, and we're going to have it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. And there are some other some nice celebrities coming that are just, you know, coming as participants.
Cool.
Which is very cool.
Yeah. And finally, what is the thing you're looking to get out of that retreat the most? Obviously, there's a financial benefit to you, but that's nothing compared to what you got to take away as a person.
That when I picture it, I can see myself on stage. I'm all about being on stage.
The queen.
But exactly, queen ruler. Hello. And that very first workshop, you know, on the Sunday where everybody's streaming in, these women are just like, I feel it. Like these women are so excited to be there, and can we see Liz? Never mind, it's me. It's all about me. But these women connecting to themselves, that that's right, that's who I am. I'd forgotten about that, and connecting to each other. That's what I'm can't wait to see. And those lifelong friendships, you know, and it's dedicated to my beautiful friend Kathy, that we went and saw Eat, Pray, Love together, and she passed a couple of years ago of cancer. So it's totally dedicated to her, and I know that she will be there watching, and she would love every moment of it. But, you know, women coming together.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Maybe get cheery.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And obviously we know each other pretty well now. And I'm sure that I can't wait to get to another one of your retreats, because it was amazing, and I'll bring
I can recommend a few. Maybe she should come to Fiji.
I've been telling her to come along. She's ready to Eat, Pray, Love a few times. So she's a big fan. But thank you so much.
No problem, Stanley. Bye.
See you guys.